Live from New Delhi, you're watching TD India News, India's Voice to the World. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. US asks citizens to leave Iran after Trump mulls options on US response as Tehran stresses that the communication lines are open. US President Donald Trump announces 25% tariff on countries doing business with Iran effective immediately. Another Hindu, a 28-year-old auto rickshaw driver, Sameer Kumar Das, was brutally murdered in Bangladesh's Feni district. Investigations underway. And India's Minister for Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnaw, participated in a critical minerals meeting hosted by US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Washington, D.C. Discussions focused on strengthening and diversifying supply chains for critical minerals. And on to the details now. Atrocities against Hindus in Bangladesh still continues. Once a 28-year-old Hindu auto rickshaw driver, Sameer Kumar Das, was brutally murdered in Bangladesh's Feni district on Sunday night, with assailants fleeing the scene with his vehicle. According to the police and local sources, Sameer Kumar Das, also known as Sameer Chandra Das, was beaten and stabbed near the Dagan Bhuiya Upazila Health Complex. His battery-operated CNG auto rickshaw was taken by the attackers. Locals discovered his blood-soaked body around 2 a.m. on Monday near Dakshin Karimpur Mahuri Bari and informed the police as well. The victim, a resident of Ramanandapur village, was the son of Kartik Kumar Das and Reena Rani Das. Family members said he had been supporting his household by driving the auto rickshaw for several years and raised the alarm when he failed to return home by late afternoon on Sunday. Investigations are ongoing and efforts are being made to identify and arrest those involved. And for more on this, we have DT India's Naval Singh Parmar joining us. Well, Naval Singh, what details have emerged from the police investigation so far, and how are the authorities treating this?
Still now there is no further detail been given by the police officials, and family demanded for thorough investigation as they allege that there are multiple angles to the incident. This is the in last 10, 15, 20 days, if we says then there are plenty of such kind of incident happen in Bangladesh, particularly against the minority communities and the vulnerable society section of the society. So law and order situation in Bangladesh is very in poor condition, and the Yunus administration and the police force here in Bangladesh are failed to do preventive policing, and that is the reason the fundamentalist elements in Bangladesh are having a free hand, and they are giving this kind of incidents happen very frequently in Bangladesh. And as the Bangladesh is poll-bound country, election are due on 12th February, less than 1 month time now left, and this kind of incidents are happening. It is intimidation to the voters and the minorities from the minority vulnerable societies. So election-related violence is very concerned things for the people here in Bangladesh. The government failed to protect life and properties of the people. That is the very serious thing in Bangladesh. Yeah.
All right, as you said, the election-related violence is a cause for concern, of course. But given the recurring reports of violence against Hindus in Bangladesh, how are the local authorities or the government responding to ensure some kind of safety and accountability in such cases?
There is no preventive policing. Things happen, police do investigation, and then they try to give justice, but without the preventive policing and the thorough investigation, it is very possible here in Bangladesh that the accused people, after some time, they free from the cases, as there are lack of thorough investigation and the accountability and transparency in the investigation process. They are not using much technological advances in their investigation. So these are the things. In many incidents, the people who accuse people are getting bail and getting free from the cases. So this kind of policing here in Bangladesh is not a we can say technically as well as in an advanced stage. And preventive policing is very in a primitive grade. Law enforcement agency are deployed, but they are not having a good command over the we can say the policing. So that is the issue.
All right, thank you so much for that information, Naval Singh. And moving on, as unrest continues in Iran, a violent crackdown on a wave of protest has killed over 646 people, and Iranian authorities sought to regain control of the streets with mass nationwide rallies. Now, the government's call for rallies in support of the Islamic Republic drew thousands on Monday. Iran's foreign minister said security forces have full control of the country after 2 weeks of violent unrest. Tehran said on Monday it was keeping communication channels with Washington open as President Trump considered how to respond to Iran's deadly crackdown on nationwide protest. Also, at a press conference in Tehran, Arakchi accused the US and Israel of playing a direct role in recent unrest across Iran. He said the Iranian government has obtained evidence showing that the recent disturbances, including attacking police stations and burning public facilities, were carried out by terrorists backed by the US and Israel. Meanwhile, Trump said on Sunday that the U.S. may meet Iranian officials, and he was in contact with Iran's opposition while piling pressure on its leaders. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Monday that while airstrikes were one of many alternatives open to Trump, diplomacy is always the first option for the president.
Well, I think one thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table. And airstrikes would be one of the many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately. And I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran.
Well, the United States Virtual Embassy in Iran on Monday issued an advisory for American citizens to leave Iran now. In its advisory, the embassy said that the protests across the country are escalating and could turn violent, leading to arrest, injuries and severe disruptions to daily life. The advisory added that the government of Iran has restricted access to mobile, landline and national internet networks. The advisory also flagged travel disruptions, noting that several airlines have limited or cancelled flights to and from Iran. And US President Donald Trump said he had imposed a 25% tariff on goods from countries with commercial ties to Iran as Washington weighs a response to the situation in Iran. Trump said on social media that the tariff was effective immediately without offering details of what constituted doing business with Iran. This order is final and conclusive, Trump said, without providing any further detail. Trump said US may meet Iranian officials and that he was in contact with Iran's opposition while piling pressure on its leaders, including threatening military action. The new tariff comes after Trump threatened to intervene militarily if Tehran killed protesters. And updates related to Venezuela now. Opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado will meet President Trump this Thursday. Machado said last week she hoped to thank Trump personally for the action against Maduro and would like to give the Nobel Prize to him. Trump called it a great honor, but the Nobel Committee later clarified that it was not transferable. However, Trump has declined to endorse Machado, whose movement claimed victory in 2024's widely contested elections as its new leader. Machado visited the Vatican on Monday, where she met Pope Leo and asked him to intercede for all Venezuelans who remain kidnapped and disappeared. Meanwhile, over 10 days after the U.S. captured Nicolas Maduro and brought him to the U.S. to face drug charges, the acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, reaffirmed the country's sovereignty and independence, saying she is the actual leader of the nation.
Well, we ratify and reaffirm Venezuela's sovereignty and independence. I have seen there around cartoons on Wikipedia asking, who rules in Venezuela? Well, here there's the government ruling in Venezuela. Here there's an acting president and a hostage president in the United States. We rule along with the organized people, along with the popular power, and move forward in the international relations with respect for the international law to reclaim and protect the rights of our beloved Venezuela.
Los derechos de nuestra amada Venezuela.
Well, the comments came after Trump shared on social media a fake Wikipedia profile of himself as the acting president of Venezuela on his platform Truth Social on Sunday. However, the Washington has so far backed Rodriguez in her recent role, describing her as an ally. Significantly, she has not been charged by U.S. officials with any crimes. And back in Washington, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters that Trump was pleased with the cooperation of Venezuelan leaders.
I think the last week has shown that the president made the right and realistic assessment of what needed to take place in Venezuela at this moment in time. And the interim authorities and Delcy Rodriguez and her team have been very cooperative with the United States and the president and his team, as evidenced by the massive energy deal that the president was able to cut with the interim authorities, their commitment to release Venezuelan political prisoners, which we also saw last week. So we've seen a great level of cooperation, and the president expects that to continue.
Well, in a major announcement, Venezuela government said that it has so far released 116 political prisoners as part of a process announced last week, though the rights group reported a lower figure, urging the government to speed up the release process. The move is a long-running demand of human rights groups, international bodies and opposition figures. According to country's human rights organization Foro Penal, at least 800 people were being held as political prisoners at the beginning of the year in Venezuela. The government said detainees, both foreign and Venezuelan, had been involved in acts associated with disrupting the constitutional order and undermining the stability of the nation. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Illinois and Minnesota sue Trump administration over immigration crackdown. U.S. Fed Chair Powell under criminal investigation.
This week on Defense Dynamics, why India's development of electromagnetic railguns so important for modern battlefield doctrine? What is Drishti 10 and why is it emerging as a critical pillar of India's maritime security? Why India's successful conduct of long-duration ground test of scramjet combustor so strategic for India's hypersonic missile program? And in my take, we decode why Pakistan is pushing the JF-17 across the Islamic world. Watch Defense Dynamics this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, the Trump administration's decision to open a criminal investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell drew condemnation from former Fed chiefs and a chorus of criticism from key members of Trump's Republican Party on Monday, following an unusually sharp public rebuke from Powell, calling the move a pretext to win presidential influence over interest rates. Powell, who was nominated by Trump to lead the Fed in late 2017 and confirmed by the Senate to the position in early 2018, will complete his term as Fed chief in May, but is not obligated to leave its Washington-based Board of Governors until 2028. The criminal indictment threat emerged about 2 weeks before Trump's efforts to fire another Fed official, Governor Lisa Cook, will be argued before the Supreme Court. And the action against Fed Chair Powell marks a dramatic escalation in President Donald Trump's pressure campaign against the top policy-making body for the U.S. economy, which Trump thinks is not lowering interest rates fast enough. Why does this matter? Since returning to office a year ago, Trump has sought to bend the U.S. government to his will by firing tens of thousands of civil servants, eliminating internal watchdog positions, and dismissing Democratic appointees from agencies like the Federal Trade Commission that were set up to be run in an independent fashion. The Fed is just one of his targets, but perhaps the most significant. The Federal Reserve is tasked with keeping inflation in check, unemployment low, and the financial system operating smoothly. It does this by setting the baseline for the cost of credit. If the Fed sets the interest rate too high, that can discourage borrowing, which can then weigh on consumption and investment and slow the economy. If the Fed sets interest rates too low, the economy can overheat, leading to higher inflation. The Fed sharply hiked the federal funds rate in 2022 and 2023 to combat inflation following the COVID-19 pandemic and has been gradually lowering it since 2024. It cut rates 3 times at the end of the last year. Now, what is Powell being investigated for? Well, Powell said in a video statement that he was being served with subpoenas by the Justice Department for his testimony to the Senate Banking Committee last July after the renovation. That could indicate the Justice Department is preparing to indict him for lying to Congress, a charge the department also brought against Comey. That case was thrown out of the court. Powell has denied wrongdoing, and the Justice Department has not yet commented on the investigation. And Minnesota and Illinois filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump's administration on Monday, seeking to block a surge of immigration enforcement officers into their states following the fatal shooting of a Minnesota woman by an immigration and custom enforcement officer last week. The lawsuit, brought by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, names as defendants U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and several U.S. immigration officials, asking a federal court in Minnesota to declare the surge unconstitutional and unlawful. The state said they would ask the court to impose a temporary restraining order on the federal surge as soon as Tuesday, when a hearing will be held.
We're filing against the United States Department of Homeland Security to end the unlawful, unprecedented surge of the federal law enforcement agents into Minnesota, because this has to stop. We ask the courts to end the DHS unlawful behavior in our state, the intimidation, the threats, the violence. We ask the courts to end the tactics on our places of worship, our schools, our courts, our marketplaces, our hospitals, and even funeral homes. The deployment of thousands of armed mass DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop.
Well, Illinois filed a similar federal lawsuit against the Trump administration. The Illinois lawsuit asked the court to block U.S. Customs and Border Protection from conducting civil immigration enforcement in the state while seeking to curb tactics such as the use of tear gas, trespassing on private property, and the concealing of license plates to mask official operations. Well, also, anti-immigration and custom enforcement protesters in Minneapolis continue to express anger during demonstrations The tensions erupted in Minnesota last week when a federal immigration officer shot and killed Rennie Good, a 37-year-old mother of three who was observing the federal law enforcement action. U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Noem accused Rennie of domestic terrorism. 4 migrants have died while in custody of U.S. immigration authorities over the first 10 days of 2026 alone. And U.S. Senator Mark Kelly sued U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Monday, saying Pentagon proceedings to demote the Arizona Democrat from the retired Navy captain rank violated Kelly's free speech rights because he urged the troops to reject unlawful orders. Kelly, a retired Navy captain and former astronaut, said in his lawsuit in federal court in Washington that the Defense Department's actions were retaliatory and violated the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment protection of free speech. The lawsuit asked court to block Hegseth's review and declares actions unlawful. U.S. District Judge Richard Leon set a hearing for Thursday on Kelly's request for a temporary restraining order. And the U.S. State Department said on Monday it has revoked more than 100,000 visas since President Donald Trump took office last year. The extent of the revocations reflect the broad immigration crackdown initiated when Trump returned to the White House last year, deporting an unprecedented number of migrants, including some who held valid visas. The administration has also adopted a stricter policy on granting visa, with tightened social media vetting and expanded screening. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Tommy Pigott said the 4 leading causes for revocations were overstays, driving under the influence, assault and theft. The revocations marked a 150% increase from 2024, he added. The State Department has also launched a continuous vetting center aimed at ensuring all foreign nationals on American soil comply with our laws and that the visas of those who pose a threat to American citizens are swiftly revoked. And some updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. The UN Security Council met on Monday as United Nations official warned that Russia has intensified attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure during a deep winter freeze, leaving millions without heat, electricity and water. During an emergency meeting, UN Political Affairs Chief Rosemary DiCarlo said the Council that Russian strikes have escalated as temperatures plunge far below freezing. While U.S. Deputy Ambassador to the UN Tammy Bruce said that Washington was closer to a peace deal than at any point since the conflict began, but said Russia had escalated by launching a nuclear-capable Oreshnik ballistic missile near the Polish and NATO border. Well, the meeting held following a request by Ukraine after Russia used an Oreshnik-type missile against it.
As temperatures plummet far below freezing, the Russian Federation has intensified its systematic attacks targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure. The strikes have killed and injured scores of civilians and deprived millions of Ukrainians of electricity, heating, and water for prolonged periods. The impact of these attacks is felt hardest by the most vulnerable, the elderly, children, and persons with limited mobility. They follow a well-established and deeply troubling pattern. Attacks escalate when weather conditions worsen and people's need for heating becomes most acute.
At a moment of tremendous potential, due only to President Trump's unparalleled commitment to peace around the world, both sides should be seeking ways to de-escalate. Yet Russia's action risks expanding and intensifying the war. From the start, President Trump has decried the carnage of this conflict. Horribly, we have to continue to deplore the staggering number of casualties, service members and civilians, men, women, and children. We condemn Russia's continuing and intensifying attacks on Ukraine's energy facilities and other civilian infrastructure.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday warned that new air attacks could be imminent while emergency crews toiled to restore heat and power to beleaguered Kyiv residents more than 3 days after Russian strikes on energy targets. And German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul said on Monday that NATO allies must work together to ensure security, stressing that Greenland's future should be decided by Greenland and Denmark, not the United States. Wadephul spoke after meeting U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C. as tensions grew over President Donald Trump's claim that Greenland should belong to the United States for security reasons. He described the talks as friendly and said that reaffirmed the importance of the transatlantic alliance, but joined other European leaders in rejecting any U.S. move to take control of Greenland, warning it would damage NATO unity. Wadephul and Rubio also agreed on the alliance's role in securing peace in Ukraine, reaffirmed their commitment to NATO's Article 5 Mutual Defense Clause, and Wadephul called for a united push to further punish Iran following the crackdown on protest.
And as I just mentioned, at the last NATO summit, the United States of America clearly committed itself to the defense of Europe and to Article 5. And that is how we perceive the United States of America, both in the political and military parts of NATO, namely fully of Europe's side, fully committed to defending law and freedom in the Western world. There is no doubt about that whatsoever, and I would advise us Europeans not to question things that are not being questioned in Washington.
And Australia will observe a National Day of Mourning on January 22nd to remember the 15 victims of the mass shooting at Bondi Beach, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced. The day will serve as a moment for grief following one of the country's deadliest acts of violence in recent years. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Monday that Parliament would be recalled early next week to pass tougher hate speech and gun laws in the wake of the Bondi attack. The mass shooting at a Jewish Hanukkah celebration at Sydney's Bondi Beach on December 14th shocked a country with strict gun laws and fueled cars for tougher controls and stronger action against anti-Semitism. Albanese said he wanted legislation to step up penalties for hate speech and authorize a gun buyback to pass the following day. The proposed laws will also ease visa denials on the ground of racial bigotry and lower the threshold for banning hate organizations. And the final hearing of former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's insurrection trial is underway at the Seoul Central District Court. The court, which is hearing the case, had originally planned to finalize the special counsel's sentencing request and the defendant's final statements during the sentence before hearing on the 9th. However, as the document evidence review for other defendants took longer, they decided to hold another sentencing hearing on this day. Yoon was indicted last January on charges of leading an insurrection through his December 3rd, 2024 declaration of martial law. The 7 defendants aside from Yoon include the former defense minister and former National Pride Agency chief Cho Ji-ho, who are accused of playing a key role in an insurrection through their involvement in the brief execution of martial law. He's also charged with staging a riot with the aim of subverting the constitution after conspiring with the former defense minister and others and illegally declaring martial law in the absence of war or an equivalent national emergency. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A 3-ton observatory dome atop Copenhagen's historic Round Tower has been lifted down for restoration. The copper roof had begun leaking and was removed in one piece by a crane. New copper will be fitted before the dome is reinstalled in spring. The 1642 landmark will reopen to visitors in autumn. 2 panda bears at Vienna Zoo in Austria enjoy the comfort of home as the current winter weather conditions in Vienna resemble the climate in China's mountain forest and animate them to play around in the snow. The 2 bandals were born in the Conservation and Research Center for the Giant Pandas in China and were moved to Vienna in April 2025. And still to come on DD India News Hour. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz visits Bengaluru on the second day of his two-day official visit to India, set to tour Bosch headquarters and IISc. Udaipur artist creates history by crafting 75 ultra-microscopic gold kites in 75 hours, enters world records. Cold wave and dense fog grips part of North India. More details ahead.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Arey, it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. US asks citizens to leave Iran after Trump mulls options on US response as Tehran stresses that the communication lines are open. US President Donald Trump announces 25% tariff on countries doing business with Iran effective immediately. Another Hindu, a 28-year-old auto rickshaw driver, Sameer Kumar Das, was brutally murdered in Bangladesh's Feni district. Investigations underway. India's Minister for Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnaw, participated in a critical mineral meeting in Washington, D.C. Discussions focused on strengthening and diversifying supply chains for critical minerals. And moving on, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz will be in Bengaluru on Tuesday, the second day of his two-day official visit to India. During his visit to the Indian IT city, Merz, along with his delegation, is scheduled to visit the Indian headquarters of German tech major Bosch at Arugodi. The visiting Chancellor will then go to the Center for Nanoscience and Engineering at the renowned Indian Institute of Science before emplaning from Bengaluru. This is Merz's first trip to Asia as the German Chancellor. And early on Monday, the visiting dignitary met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in India's western city of Gujarat to push for deeper economic and security ties between the South Asian nation and Europe's largest. Here's more in this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz held delegation-level talks in Gandhinagar on Monday. The two leaders discussed the entire gamut of bilateral relations between the two nations. They called for giving further momentum to ties to elevate the strategic partnership. Following the talks, both sides exchanged and adopted MOUs in the field of defense and security, trade and economy, critical and emerging technologies, science and technology, renewable energy, green hydrogen, among many others.
रक्षा और सुरक्षा में बढ़ता सहयोग हमारे आपसी भरोसे और साझी सोच का प्रतीक है। रक्षा व्यापार से जुड़ी प्राथमिकताओं को सरल बनाने के लिए मैं चांसलर मर्ज का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। हम रक्षा उद्योगों के बीच सहयोग बढ़ाने के लिए एक रोडमैप उस पर भी काम करेंगे, जिससे को-डेवलपमेंट और को-प्रोडक्शन के नए अवसर खुलेंगे।
Prime Minister Modi highlighted how India and Germany are expanding their cooperation in clean energy and secure, resilient supply chains.
रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के क्षेत्र में भारत और जर्मनी की प्राथमिकताएं समान है। इसमें सहयोग को बढ़ाने के लिए हमने इंडिया जर्मनी सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस स्थापित करने का निर्णय लिया है। ये नॉलेज, टेक्नोलॉजी एंड इनोवेशन का साझा मंच बनेगा। हम क्लाइमेट, एनर्जी, अर्बन डेवलपमेंट और अर्बन मोबिलिटी जैसे क्षेत्रों में मिलकर नई परियोजनाओं को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन में दोनों देशों की कंपनियों का नया मेगा प्रोजेक्ट भविष्य की ऊर्जा के लिए एक गेम चेंजर साबित होगा।
The German Chancellor spoke of India as a partner of choice in the context of expanding and strengthening his nation's relations beyond Europe and transatlantic.
India is a desired partner, a partner of choice for Germany, and the preconditions for a renewed and deepened and intensified partnership couldn't be more favorable. The highly dynamic India and the highly technological Germany, we share essential interests, and this is what we build upon.
The two leaders also held productive discussions with Indian and German business leaders at the CEO Forum in Ahmedabad. Chancellor Merz also suggested the European Union and India could finalize a free trade agreement as early as the end of this month, as presidents of European Commission and European Council are set to visit India towards the end of the month.
He laid particular emphasis on Germany's very strong support for the early conclusion of the India-EU FTA. As you are all aware, in another fortnight's time, the EC President and the European Council President both will be visiting New Delhi, where we hope to take these discussions forward towards a favorable conclusion.
The EU recently concluded a trade pact with South America's Mercosur after talks for 25 years. This has raised hopes for the finalization of its deal with India as well. Bureau Report, DD India.
And later, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, accompanied by India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, visited Adalaj Stepwell in Gujarat, a 15th century architectural marvel and a symbol of rich confluence of heritage, sustainability and community life. The Stepwell served as a water source, place for community gathering and cool refuge for locals and travellers. India-Germany friendship finds inspiration in shared values of sustainability, resilience and human-centered development. And Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology Secretary S. Krishnan on Monday said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's roundtable interaction with Indian AI startups underscored the government's vision of building responsible and ethical artificial intelligence rooted in Indian values. The roundtable was held at the Prime Minister's residence in the national capital on January 8th, ahead of the India AI Impact Summit 2026, scheduled to take place in India next month. According to an official statement from the Prime Minister's office, the 12 startups had qualified under the AI for All Global Impact Challenge and used the platform to present their ideas, products and ongoing work. During the interaction, the Prime Minister emphasized that India has the capacity not only for innovation, but also for large-scale implementation and should aim to present a unique AI model to the world that is made in India, for the world.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री ने 12 AI स्टार्टअप्स के साथ एक इंटरैक्शन किया था। इसका मुख्यत्व ये है कि ये सारे 12 जो स्टार्टअप्स हैं इंडिया AI मिशन के अंतर्गत फाउंडेशनल मॉडल्स, इंडिया के फाउंडेशनल मॉडल्स बनाने के लिए चुने गए थे और वो प्रधानमंत्री जी के सामने अपना क्या काम कर रहे हैं और उनका काम का महत्व क्या है और कब तक ये कर पाएंगे, इसके बारे में उन्होंने उल्लेख किया और प्रधानमंत्री ने उनको बहुत सारा प्रोत्साहन दिया और उनसे समझा और उनको ये भी समझाया कि भारत का क्या AI में भारत का क्या लक्ष्य है और कैसे एक रिस्पॉन्सिबल AI और एक एथिकल AI बनाने के लिए जो इंडियन वैल्यूज में रूटेड हो वो बनाने के लिए, भारतीय संस्कृति में जो रूटेड हो वो बनाने के लिए उन्होंने प्रोत्साहित किया।
And Union Minister of Electronics and IT Ashwini Vaishnaw attended the Critical Minerals Ministerial Meet in Washington on Monday. The meeting was hosted by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Vaishnaw highlighted the importance of building a resilient supply chain to support India's expanding electronics and manufacturing sectors. Listen in.
As we all know, and especially in India, when the manufacturing sector is growing rapidly, especially electronics manufacturing, it's very important for all the countries, including India, to have a resilient supply chain of critical minerals. So in this meeting, participants from various countries, they discussed their experience, the steps that they are taking in making the supply chain resilient, especially technology for refining, processing the mineral ores so that high quality critical minerals, especially the rare earth, permanent magnets, those kind of materials can be secured in a long term, in a sustainable manner.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the 28th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth on January 15th in the Central Hall of Samvidhan Southern Parliament House Complex. Addressing a press conference, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, who is the chairperson of the conference, said that the conference will discuss shared parliamentary values, democratic governance and institutional cooperation. CSPOC is being hosted by the Parliament of India from January 14 to 16, and it will be the largest in terms of participation. The conference will be attended by 61 speakers and presiding officers from Commonwealth countries and semi-autonomous parliaments, including the presidents of the Inter-Parliamentary Union and the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And India's Defence Research and Development Organization, DRDO, successfully flight-tested the third-generation fire-and-forget man-portable anti-tank guided missile with top attack capability against a moving target in Maharashtra's KK ranges on Monday. The indigenously developed MPAT-GM consists of state-of-the-art indigenous technologies like imaging infrared homing seeker, all-electric control actuation system, fire control system, tandem warhead, propulsion system and high-performance sighting system. The missile can be launched from tripod or military vehicle launcher. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has complimented DRDO, DCPP partners in the industry for the successful test. He termed it as an important step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, or the self-reliant India. And publishers and authors at the 53rd New Delhi World Book Fair are celebrating strong visitor turnout and smooth arrangements at Bharat Mandapam. The 9-day event brings together over 1,000 publishers from 35 countries, offering readers a wide range of genres and languages. With free entry and convenient timings, the fair has attracted crowds eager to explore everything from bestsellers to niche titles. It also provides authors a chance to connect with readers and showcase their work. This year's fair, organized by the National Book Trust, runs until January 18th and highlights India's military history as its central theme. And several parts of northern India will continue to face freezing temperatures on Tuesday as the Indian Meteorological Department has issued a cold wave warning for the next couple of days. North India woke up to biting cold as large parts of the region slipped into severe cold wave conditions, with hazy conditions, reduced visibility across several areas, adding to residents' discomfort. The Met Department issued red alerts for parts of Punjab, Haryana and Delhi, specifically for severe cold wave and dense fog, after which a yellow alert will remain until January 17th. IMD also issued orange alert for Uttar Pradesh as cold wave conditions continue to prevail over the region. According to IMD, light to moderate rain is likely to occur at a few places over Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Karaikal area, accompanying with thunderstorm and lightning. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. President House has extended a specially curated invitation to the guest for the at-home reception on the occasion of Republic Day. This invitation pays tribute to the skilled artisans and craftspersons of the Ashtalakshmi states who continue to preserve the region's age-old wisdom and diverse cultural traditions. Through its thoughtful design and intricate elements, the invitation beautifully showcases the rich artistic heritage of India's northeastern region passed down through generations. National flag hoisted on islands in Gulf of Mannar to raise awareness on island security as part of efforts to raise awareness about the protection of uninhabited islands in Indian waters ahead of Republic Day. Security personnel from central and state government agencies hoisted the national flag on several islands located in the Gulf of Mannar Sea region. An artist in Rajasthan's Udaipur has created history by crafting 75 ultra-microscopic kites made of gold, each resembling tiny gold dust particles in 75 hours. It's a milestone achieved for the first time anywhere in the world. This extraordinary accomplishment has been officially recorded in the Hindustan Book of World Records. And still to come, DD India Newshour. Stay with us for a quick roundup on how the markets reacted to cloud of uncertainty over Federal Reserve independence. Coach Xabi Alonso leaves Real Madrid by mutual agreement. And celebrations, bonfires, folk songs and feasting on seasonal foods mark the mid-winter festival of Lohri. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and on to some business news now. Global markets updates. A surge in Japanese shares led Asia higher on Tuesday amid investor bullishness over all things AI, while the cloud of uncertainty over Federal Reserve independence favored gold even as it weighed on the dollar. The unease was evident in the dollar index, which was stuck at 98.883 USD after losing 0.25% overnight. The euro edged up while the dollar slipped. Oil prices reached 7-week highs on worries that Iran's exports could decline as the sanctioned OPEC member cracks down on anti-government demonstrations. While the Indian equity benchmarks Nifty 50 and BSE Sensex opened in green on Tuesday, while Nifty 50 was above 25,850, BSE Sensex was up over 250 points. Both indices rebounded sharply from intraday lows, indicating buying interest near key support levels. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. Secretary General of the National Rifle Association India of Pawan Kumar Singh expressed confidence that the Shooting League of India will prove to be a game changer for the sport. Speaking exclusively to DD India correspondent Narayan Singh, he said the league will not only raise the competitive standard but also provide a strong platform for young and emerging shooters to showcase their talent on a national and international stage.
Shooting League of India, the world's first shooting league. In itself, it's a big achievement, and the credit goes to National Rifle Association of India. Right now, I'm joined by the Secretary General of the National Rifle Association, Pawan Kumar Singh ji. Sir, a very warm welcome. So overall, it must have been a big challenge for you people to bring all the stakeholders under one umbrella, the international shooting body, the international shooters, and bringing that window to conduct that big league.
Definitely, this is a challenge, but I can say that this is a very good vision by our president, and we are getting all the support from all the from International Shooting Federation, from State Association, and all the clubs, even all the countries. So everyone is welcoming this idea, the shooting league, and everyone is supporting to us.
So definitely, also, sir, do you think that as there are the plans to bring the Indian young shooters in this scheme of things, this shooting leagues. So do you think it will be a game changer to nurture the Indian shooters, to nurture the Indian shooting, so that the way we are doing exceptionally well in shooting, and that will take our shooting at the next level?
There's a new talent every day is coming. In every national championship, we will find that the new athlete has come and they shot and they won the gold medal. So every time you will find out that the new talent is coming is possible because of the system of the NREI, which we developed from last 15-16 years. There is a chance for the newcomers where they can come, they can show their talent, and with that talent, NRA is nurturing that talent. So if you see, we have the guns, so there's an arms license, other challenges are there. But the plus point is that our sports is measurable sports. So you can measure the what they shoot, 10, 9 or 8. And as a federation, we always put the selection policy before the competition, not after the competition, what shooter are shooting. So because our sports is very transparent and very measurable, that's why people have a lot of confidence in the federation.
So definitely, as we all know that what kind of work our shooters had done, all the mega events, and transparency was the key factor behind that. With camera person Manmohan, Ryan Singh, DD India, Noida.
Well, the top Indian shuttlers will be in action today as the BWF India Open Super 750 badminton tournament begins at the Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium in New Delhi. Indian players were handed a tricky draw as 2022 champion Lakshya Sen was pitted in an all-Indian battle against rising star Ayush Shetty. Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopi Chand will be up against Ornicha Joksathanapuran and Sukita Suwachai of Thailand. Meanwhile, former world champ PV Sindhu will face Vietnam's Thuy Nguyen in the opening round on Wednesday. Other notable Indian contenders like H.S. Pranoy, former world number 1 Kidambi Srikanth and Malvika Bansor will also play their first game on Wednesday. In the double category, former champions Chirag Shetty and Satvak Sairaj Renkareddy will face low-ranked Chenzi Yi and Presley Smith of USA. And Australian captain Eliza Haley has announced her decision to retire from all forms of cricket in March after the team's home series with India. Eliza made her debut as a teenager, embarking on a legendary career that has spanned more than 15 years. She's played almost 300 matches across all formats, scoring more than 7,000 runs and taking 275 wickets. Taking over as captain in 2023, Haley famously led the side to a historic Ashes whitewash against England in 2025. One of the most destructive batters and finest wicket-keepers in world cricket, she has been part of 8 World Cup titles. The February-March series with India will feature 3 T20s, 2 ODIs and a one-off test in Perth. Haley will only play the ODIs and the test. And coach Xabi Alonso left Real Madrid by mutual agreement a day after their 3-2 defeat by arch-rivals Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup. Real parted ways with Alonso a little more than 7 months after appointing him following a poor run of results in all competitions. Before joining Madrid, Alonso had guided Leverkusen to a historic unbeaten campaign in the 2023-24. However, Alonso's return failed to replicate the success and his tenure was marred by internal discord. Second-team manager and former defender Alvaro Arbeloa will take over the coaching duties. Arbeloa has been the coach of Real Madrid Castilla since June 2025 and has spent his coaching career in the club's youth academy. And US is set to invest $115 million in counter-drone measures to bolster security around the FIFA World Cup and America's 250th anniversary celebrations. With over 1 million travelers expected to visit the country for the tournament, the US has started stepping up its drone defenses. The threat of drone attacks has become a growing concern, and recent drone incidents have worried both European and US airports. Department of Homeland Security said it is also launching an office focused on purchasing and deploying counter-drone technologies. Defense companies are developing a range of tech aimed at countering drones, including tracking software, lasers, microwaves, and autonomous machine guns. The announcement came after the Federal Emergency Management Agency said it granted $50 million to 11 states hosting World Cup matches to buy counter-drone tech. And Lohri, the midwinter harvest festival, is being celebrated across North India with festive fervour and enthusiasm. President Draupadi Murmu extended her greetings to the citizens. Sharing on X, she wrote, and I quote, "Heartfelt greetings to all Indians living in the country and abroad on the occasion of Lohri, Makar Sankranti, Pongal and Magh Bihu. These festivals are symbols of India's rich agricultural traditions and national unity. On this occasion, we also express our gratitude towards the nature. Through these festivals, we convey our thanks to the farmer benefactors. My best wishes are that these festivals bring happiness and prosperity into everyone's lives," unquote. Well, as Lohri celebrated across the country, India's border security force personnel marked the festival with great enthusiasm in Jammu and Kashmir's Samba district. Well, the festival is celebrated to mark the end of the coldest period of the year and the arrival of longer days. Families gather around crackling bonfires, sharing festive treats, dancing to lively dhol beats and embracing the warmth and joy that characterizes Lohri celebrations. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.